Well, if you walk outside and this thing is screaming at you and it's got this red light on, that's not good news, right? That means your septic system is malfunctioning somewhere. The most likely culprit is this. This is a diaphragm that goes on your air pump. So this is for an aerobic system, which most people probably have today. If you have an anaerobic, this may not apply to you, of course. But for aerobic systems, we have bubblers, essentially aerators, down in our septic unit. And these fail relatively frequently. Depending on kind of which brand you get, some last longer than others. Your mileage is going to vary. So here's what's going on. I'm going to show you how to change these because this doesn't require you to call your septic guy to come fix this. You can check this yourself, and if that is indeed the problem, you can totally do this on your own. It's really, really simple, and you can save yourself quite a bit of money. So what happens here is these wear out and they break. In your unit, you have two air hoses, which I'll point out in just a minute, but one of those hoses goes to your box here, and when it doesn't create enough pressure, it causes that alarm to go off. Okay. However, for those of you that do have an aerobic system, this is something unique that I've never ran into. The system never gave me an alarm, but the aerator quit working. So what had happened was my unit, because I've already taken a look at it, the diaphragm is just broken enough to not aerate my septic system, but it's just enough to keep pressure on the alarm in this, so it never went off. I only knew about this and to check it because I started smelling the sprinklers. I was like, man, that's an off smell. That's not normal. So lo and behold, these were busted. So let's walk through how to change these. This is super simple. Take a few minutes, okay? First, you will have to order these, right? So maybe you can find some locally. I ordered mine off of Amazon. You can get them on eBay. You can find them from any type of supplier. I'll put a few links down below, but I will kind of make some comments at the end about getting OEM versus some of these other cheaper diaphragms, okay? So first things first, you want to make sure that you open up your box here. You're going to make sure that you turn your compressor off, okay? There should be a breaker in here. Make sure you flip that. That way you're not working with live electricity, okay? The next thing is we want to look at the box. All right, so this is your aerator. You're going to open this box up. Always check for ants, snakes, all that fun stuff that could be sitting in there, or wasp. The trick with this is you want to test this first before you start trying to take everything apart, because maybe this isn't the issue, right? So make sure your alarm is muted. As we said before, you've got your breaker up top to control the power. So you want to turn the power on. Okay, make sure everything's muted because it's going to be loud. Turn your power back on if you turned it off, but turn your power on to your air compressor, and there's going to be a little hose attached to one of these ends. You want to pull that off. You want to put your finger over the outlet, and you want to feel if you're getting any good pressure, right? Because this is supposed to be pumping air out. If you don't feel any pressure or like really, really light pressure, you're going to need to check your diaphragm. That's probably the issue. If you get to this point and you're getting like tons of air and it feels fine, then it's not your diaphragm. There's something else. So now you might need to call somebody because that's beyond my limit, right? Although I do pop open and look at stuff, maybe it's full. I do check a lot of other stuff, but that's not my area today. So if you put your finger over this and you're like, yeah, it's not great, go ahead and let's check this. So now what you'll do again is flip the power off. Okay, you're going to take out 4 screws around the edge of your unit. And then the top should just lift off. Now you may have to give it a little bit of a tug because there's usually a little seal around this. This thing's gotten so hot and it's old, I don't really have a seal here anymore. So maybe that's something that I should look at, but that's for another. Okay. Make sure your power's off because you now have exposed wires. The one thing that I don't have around mine that I've taken off already is a little filter area that's around this, just to kind of silence it. So yours will look a little bit different than mine. You're going to move that and take that off. All right, we're going to remove these 4 screws. And then we can access the diaphragm here. Just slide that back out of the way. Yep, and you can see that it is indeed busted. So we're going to remove this nut here. That's going to release the diaphragm, and then I can replace that. All right, so now that you've switched both diaphragms, you can just put everything back together. Obviously, the same way you put it, took it apart, you put it back together, just go in reverse, right? So a couple of things that I want to mention about the diaphragms on the install. If you're getting the OEM parts for your particular type of pump, you shouldn't have an issue. It'll fit right in. However, I have ran into buying off brands on, say, Amazon or knockoffs or whatever, that the housing, this hard plastic part, the housing to the diaphragm doesn't always fit perfectly, okay? So one thing that I have noticed is that around the edge of this housing, there'll be little nibs or kind of little bumps of plastic, ridges, if you will, and that prevents it from fitting as snugly or perfectly as it should. So one of the ways to fix that is simply just get a knife and just shave those down so that it fits into your housing on the pump, okay? So that's an easy fix. But what I prefer to do is I keep the original OEM housing that came with the pump. I just pop out the broken diaphragm and put it into the old housing, right? So I'll take the new diaphragm, take it out, take the old diaphragm that's busted, take it out, and just switch them and use the original housing that goes to your pump here, okay? And that makes it super easy. It will always fit for obvious reasons. So just make sure that when you put that diaphragm in the original OEM housing, that it's snug, it fits, and it's got a good seal around it, right? So then when you put it back in, I mean, you just double check it, of course, to make sure it fits and all that fun stuff. The fun thing is, if you accidentally pop these out at the same time and you get your housings mixed up, it takes a minute to figure out which one's OEM. So make sure you mark them or something like that. Maybe write keep on there, whatnot, okay? Okay, so now that you've got those two switched out, you want to check the pump, right? However, before you start flipping switches on to check this thing, there's a lot of exposed wires on here. Just to be extra cautious for everyone, go ahead and start putting this back together. You don't necessarily have to screw everything down. So for example, put the filter or the sound dampener, I don't know what this thing is, back on it, put the lid back on it, but you don't have to screw the lid down just yet. Just put it on top, flip on your power to it, and then you go, again, put your finger on the outlet to make sure that you are getting good, we're going to say suction, but this isn't a vacuum. You want to make sure you're getting good pressure, right, out of this. If you're getting good pressure, then you're good to go, right? You're going to plug this back into your system, and when you flip that back on, that should cause your light to go off. If your light does not go off, and you are confirmed that prior to you turning this thing off and working on it, that you weren't getting air, but you are getting air, then you might have another issue with it, right? But most of the time, it's going to be something like this, right? Okay, so those are my suggestions. Like I said, if it's beyond that, you've checked the diaphragms and it's not that, or you've replaced them and they're good to go, and you double checked, yes, you've screwed everything down, everything's nice and tight, you're getting good air pressure, you've had a couple failures somewhere in your system. You can always check and make sure that the alarm up there is getting air. You want to check for any kinks in your lines. You want to check and make sure that your lines aren't, popped off, right? So these pop off relatively easy while you're working on this. So make sure that these are on there. You can, of course, get little clips to make sure that they stay on. I'm actually going to add one. I don't know where mine went. And make sure air lines are not crimped. That can be another problem, okay? So there you go. That's how to save a few bucks if you know how to change these out. They're super simple, really quick. And again, it's super simple, right? All right, everyone. Thanks again. I appreciate it. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down in the comments below, because that could help somebody else out, especially if you have a different system that maybe it works a little bit differently. Anybody's feedback is always welcome, because it helps somebody else out, right? All right, everyone. See you next time.